All right, rolling along here on this Thursday. Get back and open up the phones in a little bit. Right now, Jim Boeheim Day is coming up on Saturday. In order to have a day like this, you need to have a basketball game that goes along with it, and that will be Houston, Notre Dame. Irish coming in hot, tough season, but they've now won 3 in a row, so they're battling. And J.J. Starling versus his old team, even though none of the people are there anymore. So we'll see what to make of that when we talk to J.J. on the show tomorrow. But right now, let's go to the phone lines and bring in our guy from the South Bend Tribune. He is Tom Noie, the longtime beat writer covering the Irish. Tom, always great to chat. Thanks for hopping on for a few.
Absolutely. Great to be with you.
All right. So here we are looking at the Irish. And obviously, Tom, it's been a transition season, a tough season. But what have you seen here the last week and a half? You know, picking up 3 straight wins. What are you seeing with a little sign of life right now?
Exactly that. A sign of life, some progress. 4 weeks ago, you talk to anybody around town, this season could not have ended soon enough for Notre Dame men's basketball, just because we knew it was going to be such a long grind of a season in having to basically totally rebuild this program from what Mike Bray left it. So 4 weeks ago it was like, man, when is the end coming? And then you talk to the players, you talk to some of the guys last night down in Louisville at Yum Center, and it's almost like they don't want this season to end right now because they feel like, and this was Micah Shrewsbury's goal all along when he took the job at the start. He said, we want to be playing our best basketball at the end of February and into March and see where that gets us. Like, that's not going to get him to the NCAA tournament this year. It might not get him to the NCAA tournament next year. But what it will do is slingshot them into 24, 25 and have a better season and have a bigger goal that they can shoot for because, let's face it, this season with Micah Shrewsbury and the roster that he inherited, it was about one thing. It was about survival and finding a way not to go 0-20 in the ACC.
Which is, I mean, it's a wild thing to say out loud, but it legit was the fact. And they are 5-10 in the league and have had a couple more close losses amongst the 10. It could even be better than that when you look at it. I mean, yeah, Tom, obviously, you know, Notre Dame, they haven't been in the spotlight a lot this year. I haven't watched a lot of Notre Dame basketball compared to other years. I'm looking at the stats earlier, and it's like, man, who are these kids? I don't know these names at all. And which is so the opposite, right, of the last few years of Bray, the whole get old and stay old thing. Like, they got old and they left, and man, the cupboard was really, really bare this offseason. This is kind of shocking to see how big a turnover they had to make.
Yeah, it was bare, but we knew it was going to be bare. And the funny thing is everybody there weren't a lot of people that were that heartbroken that Mike Bray left. Like, even Mike Bray, like, he wasn't heartbroken that he left. Like, he said, look, it's been a hell of a ride for 23 years. And a lot of people got sick of me, but you know what? I got sick of them too. You know, and it was time to go. And people want to point the finger and look at the roster and say, Mike Bray did this and Mike Bray did that. And the reason that this program is down the way it is because Mike Bray didn't leave anybody there. But guess what, people? This is college basketball 2024. When the coach leaves and you have immediate transfer eligibility, guess what? Everybody's going to leave when there's a coaching change, and that's literally what happened. They lost their entire freshman class. J.J. Starling winds up going home to Syracuse. They lost 6 players off a team that 2 years ago, people forget, 2 years ago, this program was 15-5 and was in second place in the ACC and was about 2 minutes away from going to the Sweet 16. So they weren't that far off in Mike Bray's latter days. But it just came to an end. The way it ended was bad for everybody, and there was a point where it had to start over and had to start from scratch. You look at this program, and for the people that really follow it, the best thing that could have happened was that everybody left. Like, this was a complete teardown, start over, start at the base, start at a foundation under Micah Shrewsbury, and see where he can build this thing back up.
Tom Noie is with us of the South Bend Tribune. Tell us a bit about Micah. He came to you guys from Penn State. Obviously, Penn State does not have illustrious basketball history, but he did an excellent job there. What's his reputation? What has he shown you here early in year one?
The Brad Stevens, Matt Painter coaching tree was really the one thing, and the fact that he's an Indiana guy. Like, he gets what basketball means, what college basketball means in this state, and isn't afraid to say, we can do great things at Notre Dame because, oh, by the way, there's a pretty important football program also on campus. But that doesn't bother Micah Shrewsbury, and that's Those are some of the traits and the elements and the qualities that Jack Swarbrick looked at last March, but when Mike Bray said he wasn't coming back in January, Micah Shrewsbury was target 1A with a check mark from day one when this job opened up, and he never left the top of Jack Swarbrick's list. Like, he was the guy he wanted. He was the only guy he wanted, and he was the guy he was going to go after. And whatever it took Jack Swarbrick to bring Micah Shrewsbury back to Indiana, that's what it was going to do, because he wanted a guy that wanted Notre Dame to be a destination job and not be a stopgap and be here a couple of years and then go to the NBA or go to a bigger blue blood type of job. Micah Shrewsbury wants to be here for all the right reasons and wants to build this thing back up to where Notre Dame was going to the NCAA tournament and going to the Elite Eights and going to the Sweet 16s like they did under Mike Bray.
Yeah, I mean, Bray did everything but make it to the Final Four during his time in charge of the Irish for a long time. I mean, realistically, what they want is another Mike Bray, just the refreshed version of it at this point. What have you noticed from Shrewsbury, recruiting-wise, setting the table for the future? Has it been a successful year getting guys to sign on for next year, or is it going to have to be an attack of the portal going forward?
It's going to have to be both, and it's still a little too early to tell. Their recruiting class, it's easy to say, yeah, Micah Shrewsbury, he can recruit, man. He's bringing in guys. The three players he's got coming in next year, and Sir Muhammad, Garrett Sundra, and Cole Serta, those were all guys that he had developed relationships and built a foundation when he was at Penn State. And same thing with the recruiting class they brought in. All the kids that he recruited at Penn State and signed at Penn State last year, he brought with him to Notre Dame, including his son, Braden Shrewsbury. So it's going to take time. He's in on the right guys. I think there's one list out there of the top 7 current high school juniors in the state of Indiana. Notre Dame is featured prominently with 5 of them. So he's in on the right guys. But Mike Bray was in on a lot of the right guys too. It's just a matter of being able to sign them and convince them that, look, they can win here. They can do great things at the University of Notre Dame. Come be a part of this program. But he's an absolute tireless recruiter. Mike Bray will be the first to admit, again, after 23 years, he got tired of playing the recruiting game. So it's going to be recruiting, and it has to be the portal. Like, you look at the roster, you talked about looking at the roster, they absolutely have to bring in a veteran big man and another guard that can just go get them a bucket when they need a bucket. If they can open up the portal here at Notre Dame, and that's always a big if, then that puts Notre Dame back further along on that road back to success.
Yeah, Notre Dame's always pesky about them being able to actually get into school and things like that. You got to go to class every now and again if you're going to be on the Irish. I'd imagine the easiest recruiting job Micah did was on that Braden Shrewsbury guy. Pretty easy to recruit your own son to school. And it turns out he's a baller, right? He had 7 threes the other night. You never know. We just saw it with Buddy Boeheim playing for Jim Boeheim here. You never quite know, right, what it's going to be like when the coach's son is playing for Dad.
And it's really hard because, look, Braden Shrewsbury started the season as a starter, so he was in the opening day lineup. I think it was the first time since 1998 that Notre Dame started 2 freshmen the first game of the year, and it looked like Braden Shrewsbury was a little overwhelmed and a little. The game was too fast. It just didn't look like it was working early. And 3 games into the season, guess what? Micah Shrewsbury's got to bench Braden Shrewsbury and bring him off the bench and kind of slow him down a little bit, let him see the game a little bit from a different perspective. That helped Braden, that helped him get in more of a rhythm. And yeah, he's known as a shooter, and he really shot it well last night. Made 7 3-pointers, had 23 points at Louisville. So he's a guy that you want to say he's the proverbial gym rat. But when he's grown up, and he's grown up in the gym working out with guys like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, that's got to rub off on him, and we're starting to see that now with Braden Shrewsbury.
Yeah, those would probably be two pretty good guys to learn from, 2 NBA All-Stars. What about Marcus Burton? He's the freshman. He's the star of this unit. He's averaging 15 points a game. It was Notre Dame keeping an Indiana Mr. Basketball home, obviously with the help of Shrewsbury coming in. How much of a success story is this right now?
The one aspect that would raise the red flag at the start of the season was if Notre Dame was going to do anything in the ACC, if Notre Dame was going to do anything just overall, they really, really, really needed to bring in a veteran point guard that knew what the ACC was all about. You look at Marcus Burton, whatever he's listed at, he's not 5'11". He's not 165, 170 pounds. He might be 5'9". He might be 150. That was just such a big ask of Marcus Burton to step into a job like that in a league like that, to run a program like that. And he's far exceeded expectations, because there are times, and there were times even last night at Louisville, where their best option is just put the ball in the hands of Marcus Burton and let him go make a play. And he's been I don't want to say a revelation, because he grew up right down the street, and we watched him score all those points that he did last year in being Indiana Mr. Basketball. But for him to make that transition is nothing short of amazing this season.
Yeah. I mean, 15 points a game right out the chute as a freshman in the ACC is highly impressive. What do you make of what do you think J.J. Starling's going to be going through on Saturday? We'll have J.J. Tomorrow, so we'll ask him where he's at himself. But it's kind of weird, right? You're playing against your old school, which is getting more and more normal at this point.
Yeah.
But is he really? Like, nobody's there anymore. He's not really playing against any of the people it seems like that he'd actually know from last year.
Yeah, there's still a couple guys on the roster that he was teammates with, but that was a tough situation that J.J. Starling was put in last year, because he was the McDonald's All-American. He was the guy. He was the recruit. He was the guy that Mike Bray drove out to Loudemere in a Ferrari and picked him up to bring him out for his official visit. So there was a lot expected of J.J. Starling. I don't know if he was quite equipped, ready to handle it right out of the chute the way he was supposed to. Everybody saw the previous year where Notre Dame brought in a talented freshman that was expected to do big things, and it was Blake Wesley, who wound up being a first-round NBA draft pick. I think a lot of people automatically thought, well, look what Blake Wesley did. He was the first one-and-done in program history. We've got a guy who was even better than Blake Wesley in high school, and J.J. Starling. So I think the expectations were a little too big. The fact that he was playing with a veteran team that I don't know if they really embraced him the way they should have embraced him to make him feel at home. But then when he started struggling with the shot, he started struggling with a shoulder injury. He had a knee injury, he had a knee issue, and it was just something where everything that I think that could have gone wrong for J.J. Starling, including the fact that the coach that he committed to play for and wanted to play for winds up walking out the door in January. Everything that could have gone wrong for JJ here went wrong, and it was best for him to maybe go home, get closer to home, play for a guy like Red Autry, that someone he's known forever, and it's just a better fit. But like you said, 5 years ago, heck, even 3 years ago, it would have been weird to see J.J. Starling playing against Notre Dame. But now it's just so normal and part of college basketball, where you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, there's J.J. Starling. Last year he played at Notre Dame. Now he's playing at Syracuse. That's college basketball 2024.
Yeah, we just did the Joe Girard game a couple of weeks ago here, so it's just the way it is these days. A lot of guys, why wouldn't you transfer within league? It's a familiarity thing as well. You know, I got the sense, last year, certainly when Bray announced that he was going to be done at the end of the season, that even though it was January, like the odds of JJ staying there right in January were almost zero. Like that seemed almost a fate accomplished that early last season.
Well, the fact that one of the reasons Mike Bray picked him up in the Ferrari was the underlying message was, you're the sports car. Here are the keys to this car, which is the program. Here are the keys. You're going to run it. And he came in here, and there were so many veteran guys that wanted to be the guy when it was their final go-around, where I think JJ wanted more of a role that he's playing with now back at Syracuse, to do more, to be more, to lead more, to have the ball more, to play more. Like he's leading the league in minutes played this year in the ACC, where he was more of a bit player last year. And I don't know how well that sat with him. And again, he wasn't healthy. He wasn't consistent. I think his confidence took a hit. And it was just something where he thought Notre Dame was going to be the place for him. And for whatever reason, and there were many, it just didn't work out for him.
Yeah, he could. You're right, Tom. He basically could not play more at this point this year.
Right.
It'd be darn near impossible for him to do so, and the confidence has certainly been rebuilt and refound here over the course of the last 2 months, which is excellent to see from a Syracuse perspective. All right, Tom, thanks as always for hopping on. We're looking forward to the game on Saturday, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon, okay?
You got it, my man. Take care.
All right, there he goes. Tom Noie, one of the best covering the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Check him out at the South Bend Tribune at TNoieNDI. That's Notre Dame Insider on Twitter if you want to check out Tom's stuff. Getting ready for the game on Saturday. That when it concludes, it will be all the Jim Boeheim Day festivities that will be going down post-game Saturday. And if you haven't heard, some fellow named, what's his name? Yes, Jim Boeheim. Yes, some guy named Jim Boeheim will be on Orange Nation tomorrow, so make sure you are not late tomorrow for the start of the show, or you may just miss all the fun. Jim Boeheim on Orange Nation tomorrow. All right, with that, we'll take a break in this hour, brought to you by William Attar. Hurt in a car? Call William Attar. If you'd like to talk to us, the phone line is 315-437-7644 for ESPN 44. We've talked some hoops. We can talk that. We've talked some football. We can talk that. We can talk whatever's on your mind. Lacrosse, whatever else. Phone line's open when we come back after this. It's Q Sports Talk and ESPN Radio.